Awaken to love. Hey y'all, this is Awaken to Love, episode 2, coming to you from the farm in Tennessee on the heels of the Sanctuary Summit Festival. This amazing event did so much for me. And our guest today is a guy who goes by the name of Nature. He is a nest weaving specialist, and he was commissioned to build this nest that I'm standing here inside of at the farm. So I spent many volunteer hours working on this nest with Nature, and I was called to invite him onto the podcast. And we're going to talk about life, love, festival culture, community, and art. Enjoy. Rolling.
Oh, we're here in the now. You like that Murray Kyle song? Here in the now.
Here in the now, I'm hearing the now as I listen and I listen to the sound that grows on up from the ground. Can you hear now? In the here now. Can you hear that the song of the earth she's been singing in a cycle, in a circle around the sound that carries the ancient memory constantly, gracefully, calling us to heal now. Stewards are we from the inner world to the world we see, raising up a voice for unity. Here in the now, I'm hearing the now as I listen and I listen.
I don't know that one.
It's just the hook or the chorus is like, I'm here in the now, I'm here in the now, I'm here in the now. And I think that's some of my guiding lights in life. Be here now since college, and it's kind of a timeless, I think, mantra or meditation. Be love now, sequel or whatever. And there's just kind of things, messages, and that never get old, you know, and they always make sense, and they always can kind of like help us get back to our center, or as Ram Dass used to say, walk us home.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Nature. It's nice to be here with you in the nest.
You too, Flint. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been good working on this nest with you. I was thinking how, like, it's interesting that we're making a nest podcast, and
Nestcast.
It could easily be like, here's the podcast from the farm of Tennessee, or it could be here's a podcast from the Sanctuary Summit. But specifically today, we're having a podcast from the nest, and we're here to talk about nest weaving. So, as you know, I came here to this festival to do some volunteer hours to earn my keep and get to the festival for free.
Right.
And so they assigned me to work on this nest with you. And you, as the leader of the nest weaving crew, right away I thought that it would be great to have you on the show and to like learn about your story and how you got to this place where you're going to festivals and making a living. I take it, in part.
Ish.
Ish. part of a living, maybe.
Esque. It's very living-esque.
you're getting gas money for building nests.
Yeah.
So that's a cool thing.
No, it is cool.
Yeah.
Keeps it going.
And so we just, together, and, mostly you took, I guess some of these branches were already trimmed, but we collected a bunch more, found a bunch of these big branches and vines, and weaved them all together into this cool hangout zone for the festival kids to hang out, and soon for just the farm community to continue enjoying, which is a beautiful thing that we've blessed the festival and the community at large. And I just didn't even know how much it would mean to me, like, just because racking up the hours and the energy, like, putting it into it, I started to love it more and more. And then now I'm like, oh, I could just do a video shoot in here. I could record a song in here. Like, this is just a good creative portal in here. So yeah, thanks for leading the reins, leading the way in the nest weaving. Tell me how you began weaving nests.
The weaving, I think, came a little later in my career, in the first third, I guess, of the last 15, now 16 years. But the vision came from ayahuasca and other psychedelic experiences, but I give most of the credit, like 75%, 20% of the credit to ayahuasca for inspiring me to be a creative in general, to be an artist, to be a performer, to just create my life and to create beauty in the world and to weave dreams together. Because it really just started with energy and just being a part of what I thought was like this dream world of live music and these all-night creative art parties and dance parties, and that I hadn't experienced before. I was in the scene in 2004 in Portland, and I was getting so inspired by everything that was happening there, and I was a part of all of it. I promoted all of it. I went to all the things. I made all the friends, all four corners of the city.
Before or after the ayahuasca?
Well, this was after my my initial experiences with ayahuasca, which were 2 years apart, and then I took a break for 2 years, and then I was in it regularly for a long time, and then essentially have a way to bring that ceremonial medicinal energy to a place where people could feel the energy, but they're not having to go to a ceremony or go drink medicine if they don't want to, or that's not their thing, or they're scared or whatever. They have reservations around it, and then so to bring that loving energy to a place people can kind of sit in and feel okay. I built my first one in 2007, but it was kind of a slapstick thing. The weaving started to happen. I refined the designs over time. My first nests were very much just like getting a bunch of branches and just making a container and slapping them together in a circle, and then we were like, no, we need to start weaving. First, it was getting the branches to all go up in a point in the center, and then the altar would come out in a triangle as well, and that was signifying the connection to the upper realms or heaven or whatever, the divine masculine, and then the divine feminine energy. And then in the circle design, the arms, the sides of the nest were considered the arms of the earth, and they're kind of coming in and like hugging you and holding you. So you could really feel it's about revealing the presence of the invisible energy that's already there, and that's why like weaving a space together, where initially it doesn't seem like there's anything going on. There's no circle, there's no spiral, and then you create that container. The weaving is actually what makes it the nest or the temple, because you have to be intentional, you have to be present, you have to focus, you have to ground, you have to see the lines to get it to all form together. And that goes for beaded jewelry, which I have no patience for, but the amount of patience and time and energy and presence and focus it takes to make a medicinal piece of jewelry versus just like a lot of whatever sweatshop jewelry or something is like there's so much intention and love and presence and a story that goes into it, because this has always been a part of a story of not just me but like humanity, and where we're at this time on the earth, and the story that a lot of the stories that we're telling ourselves on earth are really bad storytelling, and that's why we're creating this reality of constant war or destruction or famine or disease or blah 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 blah. But then also there's so much beauty that's created in the world every day, and this is about the beauty way, the nature nests and the earth mandalas and the altars and all that. It's like we need whatever we're creating moving forward, let's do it in a beautiful way, and let's do it together, and let's weave our dreams together, and know that it doesn't have to be not that we don't need to work hard, but it doesn't have to be hard, and life can be easier and more peaceful if we decide to awaken in our hearts. Like your podcast is all about awakening to love, and the nest is all about love and all the layers of that, and the multidimensionality, and all of the. I mean, I could go, I could go on and on about all this stuff,
This is certainly a space for love. Like, you don't look at this and think boxing ring.
No. I'm going to go in the nest, 2 men enter, 1 man leave, nest dome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Nestor Dome.
So, you started building nests at your first festival. Was that the first place you did one, or?
It was at an underground festival called Emergency in Salem, Oregon.
Ah, okay, neat.
Yeah.
And then, like, did it kind of just quickly, like, start leading into more nest building at
I
different
just followed
events?
the breadcrumbs or the nest crumbs or what the nature crumbs. Like, I was getting such a beautiful response. I was like, oh, obviously I'm here to do this, and I wanted to be performing, and I was loved dancing, and so I was like, oh, I want to go make art where everybody's dancing and where everybody's being amazing, awesome people together and loving each other and celebrating life and creating beauty and magic for people like all over the country. Is like, I want to be a part of that, because at the time the world was, to me, was at war. Bush was still in office. We're still in Afghanistan. We stayed in Afghanistan for another 12 years. There was so much nonsense happening in the country and in the world, and then I found this culture of people that were like creating everything together and creating reality and creating some places for people to be, and some for escape, but also I think there was a lot of people who were like, we want to create a better world, and this is what we know how to do, so we're going to do this. And of course there's the industry, there's a big spectrum, there's big mega corporate festivals, and there's smaller intentional gatherings like Sanctuary Summit, which I prefer to be a part of, where I feel like I'm making more of an impact and difference. Not that the Electric Forest Nest hasn't made a huge impact over the last 12 years. It really has. A lot of people got married there, and it's a central gathering, space. But that's not. It's that place is more of a venue. It's not a community, like this. And people don't interact with the nest year round, where I feel like here, year round, people are going to see it and come inside and add on to it. Hopefully, take care of it.
Yeah. I would hope so too. That that people would keep caring for it here, and I think that is probably true. Especially if there's anyone who kind of like really sees the vision, like you were saying, and doesn't just like start like throwing stuff at it, but like tries to like continue like carefully, just keeping it alive. And I can see that happening. But like, what you're saying about being involved in the festival culture, it's like that's what I love about festivals. And I think a lot of people maybe get burned out on festivals, and they start to get jaded and like lose the magic. And there's plenty of festivals that are just kind of questionable with the intention, underlying all of it, that it's just they're trying to make money, or they're trying to sell drugs, whatever it is. And this is one of these festivals that has such pure heart and soul to it, and like everything that I keep learning about like the farm and Biko and his vision here, it just keeps it's like this is the real deal.
It is the real deal.
But just festivals in general, it's like for me, I've always just enjoyed seeing good live music and stuff like that, being around art, but it's the kind of thing where for the right kind of people, like they come to a festival and they want to give to it. They don't want to just have a vacation. They want to like this is a place to be like more of myself, give more of myself to the world, be more plugged in and engaged with like what I'm doing more than ever before, because it just focuses like this is where it's all happening. There's so much energy into it. So yeah, this is like an excellent path to be, involved in festivals and keep the fire burning. So it's a beautiful thing that you're doing.
Yeah, it took me a long time to, I don't know even what the word, not accept it, but it's just kind of, because when you're first starting out with your creative path and you're not it's barely working out, you're like, you question it, and you're like, I don't know if I should keep doing this. And then I have, because I'm been a one-man show, not that I don't have help or have gotten help or anything along my path and career, we all do, but for the most part, I've been a one-man show. It's me wearing all the hats, doing all the things, and except when I recruit a team to build the nests and stuff. But I have gotten to that edge of burnout several times, and I have seen things in the scene that I don't like, and I still don't like. And I see things on a spectrum too, where it's just like, well, I don't want to do the Coachellas and the Bonnaroos of the world anymore.
Right.
I want to do stuff that's like, has a more intention, more social impact, more regenerative relationship with the earth, more indigenous presence, things that really matter in building a village, in building a community, things that are like essential. Like a sacred fire is essential.
Oh yeah.
I'm on a mission to make nesting, permaculture essential to gatherings and events and festivals and stuff. It has to be a part of the thing.
Yep.
You have to have a green team. Like the last festival I went to didn't have a green team. Everything was just trash. It was all mixed up.
Gross. Texas Eclipse.
Yes.
Calling you out, Texas Eclipse. Why are you trying to be Bonnaroo out here?
I mean, I saw both sides of that thing. In my personal experience, because I stayed in my lane and I didn't get involved in the drama, I had a beautiful time. I had a beautiful experience. I also witnessed a lot of stuff and heard a lot of stuff and had my own issues. But I don't really want to. It's just like I don't. Whatever karma was created during that, that's their people's karma. It's just like I feel like things in the scene need to be talked about, and certain people and places and things and businesses do need to be called out to a certain extent. But it's just like, I personally don't want to create more conflict and division in an industry where there's already so much competition. It's saturated. There's so many festivals. Everybody's just trying to sell tickets. Some people are trying to create something beautiful for the world. Other people are just trying to make money, because we live in a capitalist system, so everybody has to make money. And then that inherently creates like greed and competition and all these things, where we could be working on creating events that create a new currency and a new economy that supports people really feel truly supported, and like the energy they put in, they get out, and that their product or service or gift or talent in the world is fully seen and appreciated, and like all parts of the whole are acknowledged, etc., etc. So as much as I would like to see so many things change, I feel like there's this movement of transformational festivals across the country that are doing their best to do something different than the mainstream industry. Just so, like in film or anything else, there's a lot of independent musicians, a lot of independent filmmakers, independent creatives that don't want to be a part of a corporate model and don't want to play into exploiting themselves so that they can make a living doing their art.
Yeah.
And I've felt like I've had to like shamelessly self-promote myself through the route, to the point of feeling like I'm a vain narcissist who I'm the center of the world, because I have to constantly be engaging. And I was like, no, I don't have to, because I can create my reality, and I can create things that just energetically feel good, rather than like all the other bureaucratic political BS.
Yeah.
And festivals are a microcosm of the macrocosm of the way the world works and runs. And some of that is not fun to look at. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. There's a huge dark side and shadow to every industry that's seen on the surface, especially the entertainment industry. And that's basically what festivals are, is the part of the entertainment industry.
Yeah, well, it's even interesting just to look at the realm of art and music as an industry in the first place. Like, am I part of the music industry? Like, it sounds like there's a factory line just of people churning out songs, on a conveyor belt, and it's like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't really feel very industrial about like my creation process.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that there's I don't know. I talk about everything like that because that's the way in the mainstream things run.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
But then even smaller festivals, I've seen festivals go from like independent grassroots to becoming corporations, basically, and LLCs and crazy contracts and all these stuff, and have to sign a bunch of things. I've done festivals on a handshake, and like, this was a verbal agreement that I made here, and they followed through. And I didn't sign a contract. It's a smaller event. It's a grassroots event. It's a family thing. It's just like they're just still figuring it out. But the Beloveds, Lightning in a Bottle, Symbiosises, Lucidities, unison. I mean, they all eventually, because of the system that they live in, they have to subscribe to some of that, and they're going to be influenced by some of that energy, where and that's where they have to figure out a way to maintain the original intention of what they were creating in the first place, so that it doesn't all come down to numbers and profit and stuff. It's like, no, we're doing this for people, and we're doing this for the planet, and we're doing this because we want to create community and culture, and we want to heal together, and we want to grow together, and we want to awaken together. Yes, we have to make money, and everybody needs to get paid, and we would like to grow. Everybody would like to make a little bit more money and get paid, all these things. But what we're really doing here is we're awakening to love. We're building the new earth. We're you pick a thing, that causes people are working on, or people. I mean, there's so much. Our generation inherited so much trauma, from previous generations, and a lot of people come for the human connection just to be around people to feel some form of healing and love, because we're so bombarded by bad news all the time in the world. Mm-hmm. So people are anxious and depressed and disheartened and hopeless and stuff. And so I think festivals give people hope for a better future, or that everything's going to be okay, or that we are here for a reason.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, the best ones for sure. It awakens that in people. The spark of creativity and hope, and like just believing, and getting really sauced and totally lost in the sauce, so that you wake up and you can't remember anything you did all weekend. That's where true transformation occurs.
Yeah, well, that's
JK.
A whole other rabbit hole, black hole conversation about psychedelics and proper conscious usage.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Medicine versus drugs, and poison versus medicine, and other people's medicine being other people's poison, other people's poison being other people's, medicine, because we're all different, and we all need different things or for our systems, and we need containers where people are going to have transformational, awakening, healing, psychedelic experiences. There's harm reduction, there's a Zendo, there's integration, there's people need to stay connected afterwards. Otherwise, everything that just happened, it just kind of, it's all for naught.
Yeah, just recently, a fellow musical peer who I'm a fan of and totally respect his work, he made a he made a social media post. How about that? We don't even have to honor these different brands.
Yeah.
Right? Why do we have to give them any space on? I'm gonna bleep those words.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, this artist that I respect made a social media post, and he's like, "This is why I don't use psychedelics, because of all these reasons. People's minds can be open to like demons and possession and stuff like this, and people can get addicted to these substances too." And like a bunch of things, he like really bullet pointed like why he doesn't believe in psychedelics. And so my comment was, I wholeheartedly disagree. And then I thought about it more, and I wanted to edit my own comment and say that actually all these points that he is making are all valid, but my still take is that I still feel that psychedelics have more of a positive influence on society than a negative. And all of these negatives that he's talking about really just comes down to being like more present, more intentional with your use, and just being aware and smart and knowledgeable. I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, I mean, there's multiple factors, but yes, to everything you're saying. But in actual initiation rituals and ceremonies for people coming of age and coming into their medicine path, or whatever medicine it is, which they do in cultures around the world for peyote, for ayahuasca, for mushrooms, everything. Even there's some LSD community churches out there, and there's MDMA, all the different medicines that are actually helping people, but they also have their own shadow and destructive side, and we have to acknowledge that. We have to take that into account, and if people want the psychedelic revolution to continue in a good way, and they want to see all these medicines liberated and the drug wars end forever, then the psychedelic community needs to continue to be more and more accountable, responsible, educational, have all the therapists that are being trained, all the facilitators that are being trained, all the people coming back from South America to facilitate ceremony. I mean, they don't need to be. I don't think it needs to be like military level, NSA, CIA levels of like certification and blah blah blah. But like that would be terrible. But people need to be well educated and well trained and held accountable, and have certifications and things like this, and like, enough life experience and in Western culture. I mean, the vast majority of people who try psychedelics for the first time, there's no like honored initiation around it. It's like you're 15 and like some random friend offers you acid and you don't even know what it is, or pot or whatever. And you take it, and like you might just be in some space that wasn't set up at all for you to like have a good experience with this. You're just going in blindly, and it's a crapshoot. So maybe you end up having a beautiful experience, or maybe suddenly you're like, holy shit, like the whole world is crazy, and my family is toxic, and like everything is tripping me out or something, and nobody's there for you, and you don't know how to process or integrate it at all. And then, I mean, it was still kind of there is still kind of a free-for-all out there in the psychedelic world in America and the Western world, where everybody just wants to be free, and I just do whatever I want, and I mix whatever I want, and I take whatever I want, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, okay, yeah, you're free to do that. I mean, it's obviously not the best way to evolve this culture. I think that, because we're also like, psychedelics is mind manifesting. It's like people awaken to who they truly are. They get into a flow state, and then they start creating reality. With what were you saying? Well, I was thinking about that because I always considered psyche to be like the mind, but actually the original Greek psyche, I think, is the soul. Oh, yeah. So and because as soon as I realized that, I actually started to appreciate the word psychedelic more, rather than some more flowery like medicine or like word like, that's fine too, but the word medicine has its own connotation, and it's like prescription pill bottles, so but psychedelic to me refers to like
tapping into the soul. So I do lean into that word now.
What was I trying
But
to say?
But it can be mind too. I mean, in our language, we've used that the psyche, as a mind thing too, and it's certainly psychedelics.
That's the way
affect
I
the
learned
mind.
about it too. But I agree, and it obviously can go both ways. But either way, it's like mind, heart, or soul is manifesting. Like I wanted to say during this podcast, and one of my favorite quotes of all time or sayings, which he didn't probably say first, but Terence McKenna was saying that we create our reality with our words create our reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very yogic thing. The matrika is the little mothers. Our words create our reality in Sanskrit. It's like, and so if people are getting really high and blabbing all this stuff all the time, and that's the reality and story that we're telling, rather than like, how are we mindfully, responsibly using any of this stuff, not just responsibly drinking. How am I having a good relationship with cannabis, having a good relationship with LSD, having a good relationship with MDMA, having a good relationship with peyote, having a good relationship with ayahuasca, having a good relationship with iboga, and on down the thing. Because if they say, oh, it's homo taquiasa in all my relations, it's like, how am I keeping all my relations in balance, with tobacco? Because I think people can have a healthy relationship with the tobacco, and people can have a destructive relationship with tobacco. I think people can have a healthy relationship with alcohol, and I think people can have a totally destructive relationship, with alcohol. Everybody's trying to find their way home and balance with these things with no form or real guidance. Like the former generation of psychedelics, the psychedelic revolution when it first happened in the 60s was kind of a free-for-all. They were just, Timothy Leary was going out, and McKenna was, talking about hero doses and just take this and then drop out of society and free yourself from the binds of the matrix back then.
Yeah.
And now the culture's like, maybe microdosing. Like, maybe
Yeah.
we should all like try to take a little bit to help us function during the day, help our mood, help our anxiety, help our depression, help us be more present in our lives. And not that recreational psychedelic usage isn't valid and can be totally awesome in its own spiritual ceremony. When you take anything and you stay up all night dancing in a festival, that's a super transformational experience. But only if you're creating a container for yourself, you're setting an intention for yourself. You're not just trying to like escape reality and get fucked up. You're trying to like be your best self. My intention with taking these mushrooms tonight is to have fun, be present, be in my heart, love my partner, dance with my friends, have a great time, connect with God, whatever. Not like I'm gonna do something, whatever, grotesque or be obnoxious, or because people take so many things unconsciously because they don't want to feel, because a lot of life is painful and hard.
Exactly.
And so we all have to have more compassion around any usage around anything. And I take kava regularly because I've had chronic anxiety and stuff, and I've had chronic pain, and I just need something to take the edge off. It's the healthiest thing I can take on a regular basis, where I can still be present, I can still drive a car, I can still get work done,
I appreciate kava a lot for that reason. Even though, I have quite the penchant for cannabis.
Oh yeah.
Cannabis can sometimes just make socializing a little awkward in certain times,
Or better. Yeah.
But I've noticed with myself, well, it ebbs and flows, but regardless, kava is one of those things where like it really does just take that edge off, and not in a way where people use alcohol like it's
But honestly, like this is the thing, like I don't mind, because I used to drink and occasionally still drink, but I don't get fucked up. I cut myself off at 3, if that, 2,
yeah.
1.
Yeah, and no, not to knock anybody who drinks. I might drink alcohol rarely on occasion. It's very rare for me, but I'm still not like completely like never. I don't say never about it. But with kava, it is like it increases socialization in a way that builds community and brings people together.
It's definitely has more of a. It almost doesn't have a destructive, side to it. You can get kava drunk. You can get like drink too much kava.
Can be too much.
But you're not gonna drink too much kava and like have sex with the wrong person, or beat somebody up, or get in a car accident.
You're not gonna say things that you regret saying later because you were too much like having this.
Yeah, and I think that, but what I was trying to say earlier about like I don't mind being around people that are drinking responsibly and know how to handle their alcohol, and they're like being social and polite, and they keep it together basically. But they're relaxed and they've had a few drinks or whatever. They're more jovial or whatever. Some people, they drink out and they do become more themselves. Yeah, because they can just like cut loose. Because I understand even people that have like super high stress, like stress that you and I don't even know what it is, right? You know, and that's their medicine, because it's like they need something strong to just totally cut the edge off. Is it the healthiest thing? Could they probably do something healthier? Yeah, but it's like I get it, and I said alcohol is itself, I think is a neutral, like many, is a neutral medicine that can go either way. I think alcohol can be good, but it's so individualized and so cultural that it's like there just needs to be more intention and love behind it. And when you're around shitty beer drinkers, you're around shitty people. Right. You know? Right. It's bringing to surface like the innate like issues that they have not worked out. People that are drinking like, and then there's artists. I've been to some breweries. It's like a fine dining experience. And it's like all the food's organic. It's like, it's all craft artisanal beer. You know, it's the highest quality of whatever it is. And the vibes are good. Nobody's getting in a bar fight. It's not Roadhouse. It's not Roadhouse. You know, it's just, it's a place for community, and people come and have a beer after a long day of drinking, or come listen to some music, or and bring their kids, and and gather after they played a sports game or whatever. And that's healthy relationship with alcohol. But most of we as we see it, it's a slippery slope into destructive abuse and alcoholism and addiction, and we see that across the board with just about every substance known to man, especially in Western culture, where all of these plant medicines have been exploited to make money. And I think the reason a lot of these medicines turned into poisons for humanity in the modern world is because they've been transformed into cigarettes or just kratom pills or opiates or the entire pharmaceutical industry, basically. I mean, it's still all coming from plants, but it's been twisted and manipulated in this and turned into this, blah, 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 blah. And so it can be exploited for lots of money. And then you see this resurgence of psychedelic medicine and holistic medicine and Ayurvedic medicine and Chinese medicine, naturopathy and stuff, where all these medicines that have worked for thousands of years and have history and ancestry and just tradition and time and tested science proved that all of these plants are responsible for healing us and keeping us alive all these years, but also like awakening us. And we even see that in pop culture in like Black Panther. It was a plant that gave him his power. Oh, the movie? Yeah. I didn't see it. Yeah, well, I'm just saying that it's in pop, like psychedelics are basically, I would say psychedelics are probably responsible for the continued amazing evolution of animation. In the world. Animators are getting altered, to see, and channeling things and refining their designs. Yeah, man, I've seen Fantasia a couple times as an adult, and some of that I'm like, man, like, I mean, this was the 40s, but like some of these visuals are like, you almost think like they were aware of, a certain aesthetic, that maybe wasn't socially acceptable. But I think that they're really leading. We might think we're in control, but I ultimately think that the earth and the plant medicines are running the show. Especially if we're having a good relationship with them. Because I see like when it's like a great example in film is Blow. And that movie is based on the guy in Miami that was selling coke. Yeah. But before he was a coke dealer, he was a marijuana dealer. And when he was dealing marijuana, it was like the hippie, it was like the peace and love in the 60s. And everybody, it was so much pot. We were all getting high and loving each other and making money. And we're all friends, blah, blah, blah. And then he becomes a coke dealer, and everything immediately starts going south in his life. It's just like his relationship with his daughter, his relationship with his wife, his relationship with his ex-best friend. his relationship with the cartels. It just all becomes nasty, and like he gets unhealthy, and all this stuff. And you can see like in the festival culture, the medicine people versus like the music and drug culture, and like everybody just music, drugs, music, drugs, music, drugs. And it's just like, oh, there's music as a vehicle to create peace and healing and love and community and culture and a new reality, a new energy. We're actually raising the vibe of the planet. We're actually coming together to make the world a better place, or to collectively grieve, even too, because there is music for every human feeling and emotion, and I think that it's important to have a balance of light and dark in our lives, and be able to fully embrace death when it comes, and to not always see it, just to see it as another part of life, and not as part of the cycles of life and the energy of life, rather than like, because we tend to culturally just avoid our darkness, or spiritually bypass, or not want to feel pain ever, or not look or deal with war, that's going on in the world. But sometimes if we do watch that stuff too much, then we become complacent, because we're like, oh, I can't do anything, I can't change anything, I can't heal anything. So you have to figure out a way to transform your observations or your experiences of those dark places and shadows, and then compost it and plant it and transform it into light. Because my teachers teach us that we root everything, all life on earth roots in darkness, or is born into darkness, or starts in darkness and then comes out into the light. And then it's just that holotropic, or not holotropic, but toroidal field of energy in life. Like just last at the Texas eclipse, after everybody had left, after things were canceled, and I was waiting for an after party or something to start in the dome, I laid down in the nest, and I had microdosed a couple little mushrooms and a little L, and I was breathing with the tree in the toroidal field, and it was just like one circuit of energy. I was laying on the edge of the nest, which was also the edge of the tree line, and I could feel and see the energy coming down into the earth and up into me, or up and down into me and up into the earth, and it was just a really simple, beautiful experience of just breathing and feeling that energy circulate. And I was like, oh man, I got to do this more often.
Yeah.
But I think that our generation's finally learning to that life it's not all good, and it's not all love and light. Like, we need to deal with the darkness and the shadow within ourselves and in the world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, a couple things that was coming to mind, during this conversation. We're talking about kava, and that certainly falls into like the category of like the wellness. I think, people who are into kava are usually, they're trying to live a healthy life in some regard. But even in the kava, scene, it's becoming industrialized. Like, I live in Florida, and the kava bars are so widespread in Florida. There's so many of them. I don't know if you've...
No, not in Florida.
Tons of kava bars in Florida, to the point where, like, I'm driving down the road and it starts to look just like, oh, Walgreens, or let's say convenience store, cannabis dispensary, kava bar, grocery store, tool shop. It's just a car dealership. It's
just another thing. It's just another business. It just becomes another business.
And it's on repeat, you know? It's just like every corner almost has now a kava bar. Not quite, but and so many of these...
Well, it's the same thing in Colorado. I mean, the last 10 years since Colorado legalized, it's now 11 years. You go to Denver now, you go to any city in Colorado, they're everywhere. It's like a Starbucks. It's like they're on every corner.
Right.
And you're like, is it just another thing now that we do?
It feels a little too like...
This is just another thing, another resource on the planet that we decided to consume and exploit for money.
Right. And it's just, it becomes like another chain, another like franchise, like copy and paste.
But then it becomes a spectrum, right? Because I'm sure there's the really nice boutique kava bars, or they have a great vibe and great people and the people running the business. They love what they do and they love kava and yada yada yada.
Some of them
dispensaries, you know,
yeah.
they're like, we only have organic, we have the best bud, we only sell good medicine to people, and other people are like, well, we don't care if it's conventional or organic or whatever, and we have all these different brands, and we just kind of like, this is what we do. We just sell weed. Like my brother worked for a chain out in California, and he hated it because he was responsible for opening each additional store, and they have some crazy vision to have like 100 or so dispensaries for weed, I think just in California. And the guy apparently that runs the place is so money driven, and it was just my brother was just like, it felt like he was in a toxic work environment, you know. And that's what happens when things try to become bigger, better, badder, more. The corporate culture becomes toxic. It's happened at probably all the biggest brands that we've all, you know, heard of, you know. And it's sad is what it is. I mean, like the way that our economy is run. You want to talk about a pyramid scheme? Dang, it's awful, you know. And I think that
cannabis dispensaries.
No, capitalism in general.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know, and it's an idea. It's not a bad idea, but we humans, we love taking good ideas and running them into the ground. You know, and people, it's obvious that, I mean, we've scientifically proven that the way capitalism is currently operating is not working for everybody. It's working for a small group of people. It's destructive. It's exploitative. It's all these things, and it doesn't have to be that way. And that's why I'm into these guys down at Second Thought and First Thought and Ground News and things that are more like eco-socialists, where it's like, we have to have a better relationship with the earth and the resources, and we have to acknowledge the spirit of the earth and the elements and these things, and this ancient wisdom needs to be applied to the future. And then from there, it's like everybody's basic needs should just be met, because all of the enough resources for everybody that's alive exists. So people need access to clean air, clean food, clean water, clean medicine, home, and love in their life, or beauty, art, music, culture. You know, these are just basics that everybody should have access to and part of their life. And then from there, they can grow and thrive. Mm-hmm. You know, but it's not a communist idea. It's not even a socialist idea. It's just an idea, and it's an idea that makes sense. You know, but it's like we have to put in the work to working out the logistics and the new systems that are going to work for everybody, and not, you know, so like a third of the planet lives in abject poverty when there's 8, 9, almost 10 billion people in the next probably 10 years on the planet. I mean, that's why I'm personally not really inspired to have children, because I feel like there's enough of us and we're not taking care of all of us until we figure out how to do that. We should at least slow down, or put a little more time and effort into like, Planned Parenthood, like planning out how we're going to actually grow good people and how we're going to actually integrate them into society in a way where they're personally benefiting and they're benefiting, you know, the whole. And right now we're still making babies like almost commercially. You know, well, we're just like, we're designed to procreate, so we should a lot.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that share that sentiment, and it's kind of funny how like then you have somebody like Elon Musk who's like out there saying like, no, actually you're all wrong, we need to make as many babies as possible, because he thinks that for some reason there's going to be like a population collapse down the road. So
I think making quality people, just like anything else, we should be working on growing conscious, quality, good people versus like as many people as possible, so that the human species survives. It's like if there's 8 billion people on the planet plus right now, then we're doing pretty good on numbers, I think. Mm-hmm, you know, mm-hmm. and we're also, and the number we've already, the way that the planet is reacting, we've already shown that the planet could probably use, you know, to have less of us around. Or if there's going to be this many, we can't be a 24/7 economy. We can't have the lights on all the time. We can't be on all the time. Mm. We have to stop extracting constantly and consuming constantly on with all of our senses, because that's kind of even though there's one New York City and there's one Vegas, it's like everybody's trying to be that on some, you know, level. where and again, it's still profit driven. It's not like it's still like, oh, what's the GDP doing? Instead of like, are people in our country healthy? Are they happy? Do they feel good? How are their kids? Like, how's school? How's work? How are all these things? Instead of like, oh, well, if we have $1 million in the bank, then cool. Or the stock market's going up, then, oh, life's great on planet Earth, So it's definitely a matter of shifting consciousness and shifting a perspective and shifting what our true value system is and what, and all of this is going to take generations, and it's going to take all of us to do it. And I definitely have a lot of hope and optimism for that, and I'm accepting if it doesn't work out. Because we are in the grand scheme of the universe, we are kind of just another blip on the screen. We're a cool little blue green psychedelic blip, but more reproductive and intentional consciousness around it is definitely. I mean, but it's just, that goes for everything. It's just like, make artisan craft beer. Stop making shitty beer.
Right. Yeah.
Grow organic food. Stop growing conventional bullshit.
Yeah.
It's kind of like stop making clothes in sweatshops. Like, have people that love artisan making clothes give everybody a living wage. Stop enslaving people. Give people slave wages. It's these, they see, intellectualizing, it's easy to intellectualize and understand it. And like, the solution is simple, but the way things are to integrate these, you are kind of banging your head up against a brick wall. I mean, the system is people think is just going to, die this slow death, which it kind of is, but it's also going to cling to life. It's like, it's still going to function dysfunctionally as long as, and instead of people just completely dropping out, like, I think the only way out is through.
Yeah.
Is that, instead of people being all these renegade shaman, psychedelic therapists or whatever, it's like people are founding churches, businesses, institutions, media companies that are all run around, responsible and medicinal psychedelic and proper, and ceremonial psychedelic usage.
Yeah.
And where it becomes more the norm, which is like, no, this is actually healthy for us, and we're doing it in a healthy way because we created that. Otherwise, it will remain. If you don't have any structure, then your freedom is gonna fall away. You're gonna take your freedom for granted.
Yeah.
And it will. Because we are playing with fire. I mean, psychedelics is playing with fire, and if we don't tend to it, this is all about like having, the reason the world's on fire is because we're not tending to our inner fire. We're not tending to the fire.
Yeah.
We're not in a good relationship with fire. We're using fire to make all this technology, even the technology that we're creating to make life easier, more convenient. We've kind of become slaves to it because we're not in right relationship with it. And we're not in right relationship with oil. We're not in any of water. We're exploiting our water for money when everybody should have just free, clean access to good, clean, healthy water, period, the end. That it shouldn't even be an argument or a debate or even a conversation. It's just, to me, that's like almost caveman common sense.
We wish it was a given, right?
What?
We wish that it was already a given understanding.
Yeah, but there's people that are like getting inside the system with creating water companies that benefit people. They're like, all right, well, we'll sell water, but the water that we're selling, we're going to use the money to build clean water systems for people in Africa or whatever. Or we're spreading the message of love through our water. Like Bronner's is a great example of like a Trojan horse company.
Yeah.
Selling soap and coconut oil, and other things and toothpaste to spread a message of love, of the psychedelic revolution, of the oneness of everything. So that's where I'm like, in order to fix democracy, you need to participate in democracy, not drop out of it. A lot of people are just like, well, I just don't vote. And it's just like, well, fuck you, dude, because like, that's not helpful. Whatever system we do come up with of a government, we're going to be voting. Like that's what we're going to be doing. So we can over time amend and fix and change this thing from the inside out. But that means people like yourself, or you think you're so cool, or you're so good, or you're so smart, or whatever, then you run for office.
Yeah.
If you're such a good person, then you be a leader. take on the responsibility. It's not easy to be a fucking politician, to be a public servant, to make everybody happy, because that's basically what it comes down to. It's just like, okay, I'm going to be, as a leader, how am I going to try to make everybody happy? Which is fucking impossible. You know, and then you throw a bunch of, you know, corporate interest and influence and, you know, money on that, and then people definitely feel a little disempowered, like their vote doesn't matter, but it does. But you people have to believe in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and there's many different ways to vote, you know,
right.
So figuratively, but at the same time, you know, voting on like political issues. It's totally plausible that, you know, it's all rigged and that they're just tricking us. That's possible.
Right.
But even still, if I don't vote, then there's no chance that my vote will mean anything.
Right.
So at least, you know, we just gotta like just do the good work, you know?
Yeah,
do
whatever
the
it
best
is.
that we can with like our best intention, you know, and just hope for the best. Like at least we tried.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I liked what you said about how psychedelics is like playing with fire, because fire is clearly, it can be dangerous, and yet I don't think there's anyone in the world who would say like, oh, we need to like uninvent fire.
Yeah.
Like ban,
yeah.
No, fire's not like allowed to exist in the world,
Exactly.
like, or something like that.
Yeah. Cancel
you know?
fire.
No, we need to work with it, you know, smartly.
Yeah.
And yeah, wow. We've really gone a lot of places with this conversation.
Yeah. I was hoping to.
Yeah. Well, so you told me that you're on your 16th tour of nest weaving.
Yeah.
So that means like each tour includes like multiple nest weavings.
Yeah, but not like some years were a lot more gigs than others, you know.
Okay, but even still, I mean that's amazing. Like that's a remarkable like amount and longevity of like this practice of building intentional space. You know, so I commend you.
Thank you
for that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday I was joking and I was like, "What's the dirtiest thing that has ever happened in a nest?" But you told me you walked up on some people making love in the nest at a festival one time. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I imagine there's been all kinds of magical moments that have occurred in nests.
Well, there's been some unfacilitated or planned and not planned. You know, there's for sure. I mean, we've had nests where we programmed meditation and music and ritual and ceremony and monkey chanting. And I built a nest around an earth harp once. We've had ayahuasca ceremonies in the nest, San Pedro ceremonies in the nest, tobacco ceremonies, mushroom ceremonies, singing songs around a campfire in a nest.
Yeah, well, it's great because this is like a space that we've created where, you know, potentially people could have workshops and meetings.
Yeah.
You know,
People get married in the nest every year at
people,
Electric Forest. Yeah.
Amazing. That's beautiful. And yet, like, the reason why it's such a meaningful space, it's like we could just put up a tent and be like, this is the workshop tent. Do your workshops in here. Mm-hmm. But no, this is like, the nest is like an entity of its own, you know, to behold and appreciate. It's not just like a shelter. And we could say, you know, in a way it is a bit of a shelter. You know, it's not like...
I mean, I feel like people feel safe in here. People feel like they feel safe in the nest and secure. They feel protected, you know, and that's the idea, to feel grounded in an earth, in a reality where outside of this place, a lot of the world feels at war, out of balance, chaotic, insane. Pick a thing, pick an adjective, pick a description, you know, and people come into a place like this, and I witness it for years now, where I don't feel like I need to prove myself anymore or whatever, you know. You know, people just come in with a sense of reverence, and they slow down or they lay down, and a lot of intimacy happens in the spaces. People just connect. I'm really trying to facilitate human connection, because I feel like one of the top 5 reasons people even come to events like this or festivals is because everybody wants to connect. Everybody needs to connect. It's like it's medicine, you know, and I wanted them to feel like timeless and spaceless too. Like it's just like it's what the whole cosmic nestiverse concept, idea is that we're all living in one giant nest, and then Paul Stamets, in his recent interviews podcast calling it the one giant consciousness, just one giant consciousness, which is then the argument or idea or theory is that there's just really one of us here. We're all just talking to ourselves, talking to God. And it's a place where I want people to feel like connected to something deeper or spiritual beyond the three-dimensional, reality, and also to feel like a new earth or a new world truly is possible. All we need to do is, pick up the pieces and weave them back, together, because that's essentially just what I'm doing. I'm picking up dead things, broken things, lost things, and I'm weaving them together with intention and love, and then it becomes one thing it's kind of a resurrection of itself, and I feel like the nesting is kind of a resurrection of an ancient way of being or an ancient technology or an ancient spirituality, because it's I don't really feel like what I'm doing is new. It might seem new, or doing something old in a new way, or
because most of us don't see this happening every day.
Yeah,
this is the first time I've seen really quite this.
Yeah, and a lot of people would consider what I do like original, or I'm original, or whatever. But I don't always consider myself. I feel like I stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah,
and I think any respectable artist that's successful would say the same thing. I mean, while I always wanted to be a performer, comedian, actor, it's just like I've been so influenced by countless visionary artists, countless musicians, countless elders, countless medicine ceremonies, countless ecstatic dances. All of that has creatively influenced me or inspires me to keep creating, to keep weaving, to go deeper, to love more, to nest more.
Yeah.
And to make sure as I'm teaching the youth, there was a lot of youth that put a lot of hands into this space, and that made me feel happy, and they really loved it and thought it was really cool. And there's young women that were like 25 that's when I started, and they were like, this is what we want to do, and we're taking notes and all these things. And I was like, oh, that's the next stage and level, because there's a whole new generation of young artists out there now, and they need guidance, or they need friends, they need mentors, they need whatever. And I'm generally, they just show up in my life wherever I go, and then I just do my best to help serve or whatever. But go ahead.
Well, I see the timelessness in this place, in this practice, because even though we might have used saws and a truck to help us out,
yeah,
it would have been more work, but we could have done it completely primitively, and cavemen could have done it just the same,
mm-hmm.
but without such tools,
mm-hmm.
So yeah, humans of any time period could have made this. So I see the ancient timelessness.
Mm-hmm. And I want it to feel like a thing it's also an accessible art form. I want people to feel like gives them, awakens people's creativity within themselves, whatever they're wanting to create in their life. It's definitely more than possible.
Yeah.
But also, it's just you don't have to do it yourself. It's just I can build a nest by myself if it'll take more time, but I'll be alone and I'll be lonely, and I'll want people to help me, and so it just naturally builds community. There's a bird on the nest over there. But the bird, and the nest obviously creates habitat and attracts wildlife. Birds always visit us in the nest. I always notice more beings, I guess you could say, or forest creatures arriving or hanging out towards. Once we actually get started, they'll show themselves, and then towards the end, it's just I feel like I'm seeing everywhere. But also, I'm seeing deeper into the nature around me. I'm seeing all of the life around me, rather than I'm not seeing the forest for the trees anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, I forget how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how the saying goes? Seeing the
I think
forest just for the trees?
Yeah. What do they say? You're missing the forest for the trees. Something like that.
But you get the point.
Yeah.
You get the idea.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, I sure wish that I would have recorded some of the action last night, but we sure had a fun time with the after party.
we have done comedy shows in the nest. We've done plenty of silly monies in the nests, and I hope I'm hoping to do a lot of silly monies next year, actually, after this, like starting with the Psychedelic Sciences Conference and then doing a good run of shows.
Yeah, well, as soon as you told me that you've done some comedy and that you might do a comedy set in here, I was like really stoked, because I've been dabbling a bit too, with the comedy, and it's been interesting to balance like my existing music career path and those performances, like bringing the comedic element. It just takes the right touch and the right setting, I haven't done much of like putting myself in just like a strictly comedy environment. I did an open mic or two where I stood up and just did my comedy, but like barely. Mostly I've been incorporating it in settings like this, which it worked. I took so much from it, because we had set the space. I was already very comfortable with my music stuff being there, and I played some. Everybody was here. We're in a good space. And then I kind of like started to set the stage for you to say something funny by like being a little silly myself and then calling you up. And then by the time you did your thing and I went back up, I was even more
right
in the
yeah
zone.
You were. I remember you were going off when I was leaving.
I was really going off, and then you came back up too, so we really had a good symbiosis, and I think I had my personal best comedy experience yet, as far
really?
as like
That's great.
Actually making people laugh and having them like with me. And even when I started to lose them, I was able to like kind of like get them back.
Yeah.
So I had a great time for that, and it definitely wouldn't have happened without you being like already like comedy set. I'm like okay, comedy set. Me too.
Awesome.
Oh, it was such a good time. Yeah. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for being yourself and leading the way with this, and all the work and even the strife and the struggle that sometimes comes with it. You're doing some good work out here, and it's really made an impression on me. So
thank you.
I hope to just continue to see you on this path.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Yeah.
We'll probably create together again. Should we hug it out?
Yeah.
We're waking to love.
Thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
Awaken to Love. Nature, Nate, the Nest Weaver. Nature, Nate, the natural nest weaver.
At Nature Dreamweaver.
At Nature Dreamweaver. Check him out on social media and everywhere podcasts are found.
It's my first one.
Congratulations. Peace, dude.